I've got a confession to make. Dan is going to be on the show. I forgot to send him the link. So that is obviously, we're just chatting in the green room, me and Ian and John. So I'm just going to quickly send Dan the link and then he can jump in. There he is. So apologies. Anyway, this is Talking Cricket. Welcome back. If you were here last week, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the show. If you're watching live, hit the like button over on YouTube. Takes about less than a second. And hit the subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We mainly cover England. That's where we're going to talk tonight. But with a bit of county cricket, and there's going to be a bit of West Indies chat tonight because obviously they had a absolutely fantastic result on Sunday morning, as did England. We will be a little bit shorter show tonight because we've got, if you're a football fan, Talking Towns match day preview against Preston. Good evening, Colin. Hope you're well. And I will bring the lads in. Ian and John and Dan will hopefully be here when he's clicked that link that I just sent him, because unfortunately, boys, I forgot to send it to him for some reason. I was on the ball with you two this morning. I'd literally sent it to you by 11 and I must have... it must have slipped my mind. Are you well, John?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Yourself?
Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's been that long, has it? Okay, yeah. Happy New Year to you.
Hi, gents.
Oh.
How you doing?
Can you hear me, Dan?
Oh, that's the one.
Yes,
Sorry.
mate, I can hear you.
Sorry, I forgot to send you the link. It's totally my fault.
You started
Anyway.
already?
Well, we've only literally been here about 20 seconds, so you've not missed a lot, has you, Ian? How are we? Happy New Year to both of you two at the bottom, because I've not seen you since... I think the last time I see you, Dan, was at Watford.
Yeah.
I think you'd had a few pints that night. It was a happy night. It was a happy night. Anyway, I'll tell you what was happy. England beating India, Ian. Just quickly, we'll go over the test match. What's your thoughts? I'll start with you, Ian, coming out of that game.
It's probably one of the greatest and most unexpected victories, given the strength of the side that we had from a bowling perspective, in terms of inexperience, and it being such a hard thing to do, beat India in India, especially after India's second innings total. First innings total. It just absolutely amazing. It was just unbelievable. It was really unbelievable.
Test cricket, John, alive and well. Because not only did England beat India on Sunday, did you have your eyes on Brisbane as well?
I did, across the card. It was two very exciting test matches. I totally concur what Ian just said. I mean, I think what amazed me about the test match in Hyderabad was, Ian Bell's first innings, those 11 balls. I don't think I've seen it was horrid. It was horrid to watch those 11 balls. He could have been out three times.
Ollie Pope,
not
Ian Bell. Ian Bell was a great player as well. Very like.
Yeah, he was. Sorry, Ollie Pope. Yeah, those 11 balls. He was like a cat on a hot tin roof. He literally could have been out three times, and then to play that innings that he played in the second dig was amazing. I think the thing is with England, which I think is a big attributing factor at the moment, is they're playing with no fear. You know, you've got a team there with literally no fear, and there's no sort of they're playing without consequence. It's like go out there and just go for it. And I think the problem that India have got is that there are consequences. You know, there's a lot of players playing for their place. They get ripped apart by the media. And I think that's a huge factor. So you look at someone like Shubman Gill, who's a quality player, don't get me wrong, and he'd walk into the England top six, I would imagine. He just looks a shadow of himself at the moment. So I think that is a attributing factor. And I think India, in hindsight, again, probably should have batted England out of the game. I mean, they got 400 odd, but they threw away a lot of wickets.
Cheap.
A lot of wickets. They could have batted England totally out of the game, got 550, 580. So I don't think England should get ahead of themselves. It was brilliant. But I think India, especially their fielding as well. I mean, Jadeja was very unlucky in that second innings, only to get one wicket. It took a couple of drop catches.
Do you want to talk about Ash? Do you want to talk about Ashwin's fielding? There was 2 instances, weren't there, John, on the third.
Awful.
Well,
awful.
The first one was bad enough because he's got to the ball and he slid, and then the second one when he's running and I can't. The substitute fielder was on, wasn't it? Can't remember his name. It was a bit like sort of you have the ball. They sort of both left it to each other, didn't they? And I thought then we've got them a little bit on the ropes, haven't we? A little bit then, but we will talk about the fielding. We will talk about Rohit Sharma's captaincy. I was listening, Dan, on Friday morning, TalkSport 2, when they had the review of the day. And England hadn't had the greatest day. And they had Jeetan Patel was on. Because you always know when you've had a dodgy day, you either send out... It's probably the bowling coach or Marcus Trescott who gets sent out. He gave, the most positive interview I think I've ever heard. Bearing in mind, we are, 170 runs behind? But at no point did he sort of say, no, we're out the test match. And I think this is a trend that's running right through the team, isn't it? From McCullum, your captain, your players, all of the staff. And I think we've probably got to get on board a little bit, Dan, because I think our WhatsApp group was a little bit... We all thought, you naturally do, don't you, when you're 170 behind. And then this is the... I think there hadn't been a team won in India. I think it was 65, Dan, the most... The team had like a deficit on first inning. So 190, I mean, unreal.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, to address your first point about the positivity, I've been slightly kind of call me a healthy cynic about the new approach in some ways, because I sometimes used to think that we almost overdid the positivity off the pitch sometimes, but I've been won over with that. I heard that interview and I heard Ben Duckett talking, and the way, is it Jay Swell batted at the end of day one, the way he came at us, and I thought, come on, you know what I mean? This is a long way to go, and I kind of laughed a bit to myself at that. So I thought, not that we had a terrible, terrible day, but I don't think, when I watched it, I thought it's not as good as that. I actually think over a period of time, particularly the way we approach the second half of the game, particularly that Pope innings, the positivity is such a intangible thing with cricket and these teams, and you kind of relentlessly reinforce it with your selections, with your preparation, with your performances, and you can see how people buy into it. And I think, as John said, I think we've won the first test before, let's face it, in India. We know what happened
last time out.
Yeah, we know what happened the last time. So, it's difficult. I'm not going to get well ahead of myself, but, I mean, India have got a lot of thinking to do. The pressure is on them big time. But generally, I mean, I think it's one of the greatest test matches I've seen. I absolutely loved it. The twists and turns... It was just the best advert for Test cricket. I really, and the kind of finish to be on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and you just, that was just a kind of a perfect kind of finish. You just hope so many people watch that and bought into it, because I'm so excited for the second test now.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was listening, I think it was a following on podcast on TalkSport 2 today, Ian, and they were saying about, Dan says a really good point. They're hoping a lot of people could watch it. It's a bit disappointing when you think it was last minute on TNT, which I think the coverage was fairly good, decent. I know they didn't have a studio. I think this test, I think they're going to Sweden, aren't they, Ian? I was reading. They've got a studio in Sweden. I think Finney's going to be there, Alistair Cook. And I thought the guy, I don't know what his name was, who was back in the studio. He was really good. He was very good. He'd come in now and again. But I think it's a little bit disappointing when Dan says about as many people watching that, you'd hope. But there's no highlights package. Even if they had a highlights package, say, Channel 4, Channel 5 on like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. on the day of the game finishes. A little bit disappointing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it was a bit of a last-minute thing from TNT Sport to come in and do that, and thank heavens they did. I mean, they certainly had a Sunday morning to remember with those two finishes. Obviously, the Windies game and then followed by the England game, so they certainly got it stitched up there. Obviously, TNT Sport did their own highlights packages, which again, they were pretty compact. There was no sort of studio banter or anything like that. And in fact, we watched them through the other night, actually. And it was a wife's idea to watch it. So there we go. That was good news. But you're absolutely right. I mean, back in the day, you used to have the live coverage, whether it be on BBC or that is back in the day, or even Sky, and there would be some sort of a highlights package, late at night, BBC Two, whatever it was. But that, it does mean. I mean, I know television habits now with streaming, etc., have changed, but you would think that one of the terrestrial channels or free-to-air channels would have a highlights package. But at the end of the day, we didn't even have it was very. Might not have had a live package at TNT not stepped in. It was very, very disappointing. It is Test cricket and it was fantastic, but we should have a chance to see it.
What do you think to the radio coverage, John? Did you catch any on TalkSport too?
I didn't know. I watched the Indian commentary. I mean, apart from KP, who I can't stand, I actually quite like Ravi Shastri. I like DK. I think Sonny Gavaskar, considering he played in a different era, I think he appreciates where the game's moved on. I actually quite like, and Kartik as well, Dinesh Kartik. I think he's very good. I thought the commentary was very good. I'm not a big fan of TalkSport, to be honest with you.
I thought it was. I caught little bits, Dan, but a little bit too shouty for me. When there's a wicket, it's a bit too. But I think that's the just how it is. Just on Peterson. I don't know if you three have heard about. He wants to bring in a thing where. Do you know what I'm going to say about hitting a 6 and it goes 100 metres?
He wants it to be 12.
Did you hear it, Dan? Oh, Dan's froze. He's shocked, and he's shocked.
He's probably so shocked at the.
Yeah, but AB de Villiers, I think, John, wants it to be an upside down 6, then he's done 9.
Yeah, I mean, as I say. The only thing that was surprising about KP, I think on the first day, it took him about an hour and a half to start talking about himself. I mean, usually he talks about himself well before then. It's just, I just find him a little bit cringeworthy, to be honest with you.
So we'll go back to the start. Obviously, England picked 3 spinners, which was unusual. I think we spoke about it last week, and they had Mark Wood as solitary seamer. We did say, didn't we? I think toss was crucial. And I think when I woke up, I got up on was it Thursday morning? And I see that Ben won the toss, and I thought, yeah. But then, obviously, 2-4-6. Not the greatest score, was it? First innings.
No, and it was a disappointing score. I think, as we talked on the last pod, and as John has said there, you need a big first innings total, whether you're batting first or second, to try and bat the other team out of the game. So it was really a pretty disappointing. I know you've got to judge it when both teams have batted on it, and obviously India made 4-3-6. So even though they were a bit short, the 2-4-6 certainly looked modest, which makes the victory all the more amazing given the first innings scores.
It looked meagre, didn't it, on the first evening, John, when obviously Tom Hartley took the new ball. We'll come back to that in a minute. We'll let you have your say on Ormskirk's finest. But great video, John. Have you seen him dancing on the table?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Ian did send that to me. But what did you make of Ben giving him the new ball? Because obviously at the time you're probably a little bit taken aback, and then didn't start great, did he? And he's obviously went first ball for 6, 12 off the first over. But Ben said afterwards that he wanted to get him into the game because he knew later on that he was going to be important, in the fourth innings, and obviously it proved crucial. But he must have. I mean, to me, my mind went back to a former Lancashire player. Ian knows him probably as well, Simon Kerrigan. You know, that one test when I think Shane Watson got hold of him at the Oval. But Hartley, look what he done in this test. I mean, wickets, very important runs, brilliant.
Yeah, I think that 20 odd he got in the first innings helped him with his bowling. I mean, as you say, you look at his bowling in the first innings; they seem to go after him. I mean, I thought Stokesy might go with Root opening the bowling. To be honest with you, purely because of the experience. I think Root will bowl a lot of overs in this second test as well, especially if England go with 3 spinners. I think what's interesting is if you actually look back and analyse the first England's innings, the 2-4-6, you know, they were basically given 50, or say given, you know, in hindsight, India wouldn't have bowled Siraj in the opening spell. I mean, Siraj can be very expensive, can't he? I mean, Bumrah's a class act, but we can't get away from that. But England were 50 for no wicket. So if you actually look at the 2-4-6 and you say it's under par, yes, it was under par, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Say if they'd have opened the bowling with Ashwin and Bumrah, then you're probably looking about 180, 190. And I think all the test matches, I think first innings runs will be key, especially in the first session with a hard ball. And it'll be a question of whether, you know, sides open up with a spinner, pace off. I mean, Duckett's a perfect example. You go pace off with Duckett, don't you? You don't give him that slash through gully and point where he gets a lot of his runs. And that's what happened with Siraj, and England got off to a flyer, didn't they?
Both innings.
Both innings. You think, what was it, 50 in the first innings? We got in the 40s, and they were saying, I think they were saying today about they average Dan Duckett and Crawley. I think they're in the 50s now, and they were saying, I know it's only a small sample size of obviously tests they played together, but so far they're averaging more than Strauss and Cook did as an opening partnership.
I think as well, it's a small sample size, but it sets out your stall, it sets out your intent, and I think John's absolutely right. I mean, it's great, you know, we'll have them thinking surely they'll have plans for that, because you know it was that first day was such peaks and troughs, wasn't it? 55, and then we were staring down the barrel, weren't we? When the kind of top middle order went a bit, you know, and then when I think it was when Folkes was out to that shot on the first day, it was like we were really looking down a barrel, and that was we've become used to it. But Stokes again, fantastic knock, shepherding through the tail, and I think we kind of touched on it, but in both, similar to the openers in both innings, our lower middle order in both innings really, you know, really carried us. Some of those partnerships, first and second innings, from Ahmed and Hartley and Wood to an extent, you know, we really kind of dug ourselves out with a few holes. But at the end of day one, I mean, just the way India came at us and came at Hartley, and you know, I mean, at the time I was thinking, wow, that's a brave call. I've not seen much of Hartley at all, to be honest. But I thought, wow, that's a brave call. And I think Ian will know better. From what I saw, I thought you've got to be a hell of a character to come back from being hit for 2 sixes in your first over. And he kind of alluded to that, didn't he, Hartley? He said, oh, he won't be the first and he won't be the last. And I thought, you know, that shows, kind of speaks volumes for Hartley. I thought, we'll go into this, I thought Stokes captained him brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, Hartley. And yeah, but I really, you know, I do think we were definitely staring down the barrel, and it could have been a bit worse at day one. And then we went into day two, and even then, you know, I've got to say, you know, 190 behind, even though I thought Stokes had captained really well on that second day, really well. I mean, even though they got to 4-2-1 or whatever it was, I thought he did a great job. So amazing peaks and troughs during that first day and second day. But yeah, unbelievable last 2 days. It was a game of two halves.
Coming back to Hartley, Ian, see, I don't think he bowled terrible them first 9 overs. It was obviously pre-planned by India to go after him. did he bowl maybe a little bit too full and a bit too quick? And then second innings, he sort of pulled his length back a little bit, and
he looked like his rhythm was better, and his consistency was far better in the second innings. I mean, looking at his actual figures, 231, it does sound a lot. 5.2 for an over. It's not, well, if it's white ball, you can go at 10 and over and think you've bowled well. So he pulled it back a little bit. So pleased for him to be in the game. He got a catch. He was involved in a run out. He got a catch, a couple of wickets. As I've said before, Lancashire rate him both as a fielder and very handy with the bat. So that goes in his favour. But it was so good to see him sort of come back. Obviously, I think they bowled with Root, didn't they, in the second innings? Probably quite sensible given the first innings. But yeah, I was watching the first. I couldn't believe they were opening the bowling with him. When that first ball went for 6 and he went round the park a little bit. But good captaincy from Stokes. It would have been very easy for any captain to say, get your sweater. Not that you need it.
He was on TalkSport and they interviewed him in after the game, and he basically said when Ben said to him, "You're opening the bowling," they had to apologise for his language because he said, "Are you taking the piss?" Because he's obviously done it with a white ball, hasn't he? He's obviously opened in white ball cricket, but it's totally different. That pressure cooker out in India. But like as you said there, Dan, brilliant character. To come through that, because a lot of people would have probably crumbled. But he's another one, John, off the list of your debutants. You had Ahmed in Pakistan took 5, Josh Tongue. Now you've got Hartley, Wheeljack 6 in Pakistan. Will it be Bashir in Vizag, John?
Could be, and I think it goes back to what we said at the top of the show. I think the management's got to take a lot of credit, because I think these players are coming into the team with no fear of consequence. It's a case of, look, we're picking you on merit. You play your game. Don't be worried about failure. And as Ian said there, Hartley's gone for like 5.5, 6 and over, got hit early, and he's come back in the second innings and he's got a 7-for. So I think McCullum's got to take a hell of a lot of credit. I personally don't think they should go with Bashir for this match, purely because if you look at the first Test match, Woody can only bowl 4 overs. He can't bowl any more than that, right? So I don't think Wood will play. I thought they might bring Robinson in and play with 2 seamers, because you are going to rely. Joe Root's bowled 48 overs in that Test match.
Yeah,
it's a lot of overs for a part-time spinner, isn't it? And I think if you're going to go into a Test match with Ahmed, Hartley, and Bashir, I'm not saying Baz is not going to do it. He probably will do it, but it's a huge risk, especially if your seamer's going to be a 40-year-old man, or Ollie Robinson or Woody, which they've all got squiggles against them, haven't they? Ollie Robinson can break down any time. Woody can't bowl more than 4, and you got a 41-year-old man. But I still think if I was England, I would go with 2 seamers. I think Anderson's got that aura of he can keep it tight, and it's Jimmy Anderson, even though he's not in his favourite environment. But I think he's just got that aura about him. I will play Jimmy, and I will play Robinson. I'll play 2, and just go with Hartley, Ahmed, and I think Root will bowl a lot of overs. That's what I would do. But they might do that. They might just go straight with Bashir coming in for Leach. Probably will do that. I wouldn't do it, but they probably will do it.
I think I was messaging you the other day, John, saying like when we've gone with 1 and 3 in this test, and like when you bring in Anderson, I think the last time over here, I think he went about 1.9, just under 2 and over. He can bowl dry, can't he? I said to you about slowing up the runs, because Ahmed's your wild card, isn't he, really, at the minute? Yes. Because he's always bowling 1 or 2 bad balls and over, the drag downs. But I think you're going to keep him in the team, obviously, because he's batting down, because he got some crucial runs at the bottom of the order. Look, Joe Root's the one. You suffer, Dan, because obviously Ben Stokes is not bowling. I did read today he's going to bowl for the first time tomorrow. That's part of the programme to get him back to bowling. He wants to be an all-rounder back in the summer. He's not going to bowl in this. Well, he's saying he's not going to bowl in this series, but you never know what happens down the line with Stokes, because he's a bit of a freak, isn't he? You think you've only got to look. You've only got to look at the run out. You know that. Let's talk about that run out, Dan. I mean, no other player in the England side would have been able to do that. You know, backhand it. It's a double whammy, wasn't it? Run him out, and he's done his hamstring at the same time. Happy days.
And he may be out for more than one test, I reckon.
Yeah. There's a little break, isn't there? I think there's 9 days between the second and the third test, so he might be back, Jadeja, but so might Leach.
Hamstring, though, isn't it? It's not if it, depends how severe the tear is. But
yeah.
You never know. That run out was just, it was unbelievable. I mean, at that stage of the game and the opposite, Jadeja and what he did and the athleticism, and you could see Stokes was like when he kind of got up on his feet and he's like,
he didn't think it's out, did he?
No, he didn't. He was like, I've got him. I don't know who the first lad who ran up to him, but he was a foot short. I mean, little moments again. Probably, couldn't fall into a kind of better field of it. Even Stokes, it's amazing, isn't it? You do think, okay, if he could bowl, the balance of the team would be even more balanced. He gives you that extra, bat and bowler. But even when he's not, he's contributing all the time. He's a true giant at the moment, Stokes. He's creating an atmosphere off the pitch, which is obviously working. His captaincy is improving so much. He's proving to be the ultimate all-rounder, and he's not even bowling. I mean, it's absolutely it's incredible to witness. And I think I said this before in a previous pod. I think it's just the general kind of direction of travel they want to take, and they're creating. And I think it's now beginning to spread. It's fascinating. I think the second test would be fascinating. Of the selection. I agree. I really genuinely don't know which way it can go. It obviously the pitch is going to play a big part in it. What India decide to do with the pitch, will they get it to really rag even more? I'm not sure that's the greatest idea. I have this hunch. I don't know why. I think they might go Lawrence.
Yeah, so you messaged me tonight saying Lawrence, didn't you?
And I think that route has had a
Essex is Darren Lawrence, by the way, Ian.
Yeah,
not Surrey's yet. Not Surrey's. Still can't come to terms with that.
He's never played under McCullum and Stokes, and obviously he has toured India before. I think he averaged 23 with them. I think the way that Root bowls and the way that these pitches may go, I think we need to. I think there's a case potentially to strengthen the batting, which I think Lawrence will be the option to undoubtedly do it. And I think, I've got. I heard today. I don't know if you heard that. Your dog agrees with me. I don't know if you heard it today, but Lawrence opened the net session with Stokes and then bowled for an hour in the nets, which is, I don't know, you can read so much into that. But
I did see Jimmy Anderson bowling left arm spin in the nets, Dan, and I see Joe Root batting left-handed. So I think they just try everything, don't they?
Do you know what though? As well, talking about trying everything, we've made a few pundits eat their words on our lack of preparation because it was a very wise. It sounds like in Abu Dhabi when they were sanding down the pitches in the nets, and I mean they look. Did you think England looked physically? Don't know why.
We spoke about this last week, didn't we, Ian, on here about they said Anderson, they just look so fit, and even Robinson, and I mean he's like John has said before, he's one who's really struggled with his fitness, hasn't he, Ollie Robinson? So look, they are fit, but coming back to Stokes, I remember when he was appointed, Ian, I think me and you done a pod, and I think even then there was a little bit of sort of. He's the only one. He's the best player in your team. We'll give him the captaincy. And I don't think anybody would have ever dreamed that, what is this, 18, 19 tests? It would have turned out like this.
No, it's amazing. I mean, he's such a hard working. I mean, he looked fit. Obviously, he had this knee surgery. He works doubly hard. He really puts in a shift. He looked pretty fit, and his knock was pretty good. It was good to see him playing the way that he did. So he can at least lead from the front with on with the back.
That's another good point you make there, Ian. About we've done a few pods, didn't we? When there was times I think when he took over as captain, and several times he just tossed away his wicket, didn't he? Charging down the wicket, he'd get caught on mid off, and we were all thinking, "What are you doing?" But if you look back then and then now where we are now, he's led from the front, hasn't he? Because he said, "This is how we're going to play." You know, you've got to come with me, and I think that was a sort of bit of a calculated gamble that he took then. And then you look at the innings that he played on the first day on Thursday. He really got his head down, didn't he? And batted properly.
Yeah, and that's it. And you know, we've spoken about Bazball before, but that's a proper Test cricket innings that he played. He took responsibility. I think he is, as Dan says there, I think he is improving as a captain. And I mean, he's just Mr. Cricket. You know, all the talk about him, you know, on the circuit is that, you know, he works doubly hard and he's a real student of the game. And he's just, his positivity is just infectious, you know, and I think you can see it in the team. Baz McCullum seems very measured and, you know, very calm and very supportive. And it's just a great environment. And it was a big test when he came in. He was the only choice, but it has been a tremendous choice. And I think he's really grown into the role, and the results speak for themselves as well. And we've seen some great cricket. Even when we've lost games, we've played some great cricket. There's been some disappointing cricket, but, you know, there always is, isn't there? But no, tremendous. Look at the results.
But you're probably right, John, when you said about India. Now, with Stokes and how he talks, there's no fear of losing, is there, with us? You know, he basically says, if we lose, wake up the next day. I think he said, you're breathing. It's a good day. Whereas Rohit Sharma, you know, he didn't captain very well, did he? Especially in England's second innings. I mean, Ollie Pope just kept reverse sweeping. He didn't make any field changes. I think he probably thought, maybe they got a bit complacent and thought, he'll get out soon. I don't have to change the field. I'll leave it as it is. And I think they are... I'm not saying England are going to win the series because like Dan said a little while ago, when we went out there last time, I know it was different. It was COVID and whatever, but we won the first test and then we got rolled over, didn't we? And that might happen again. But I think this is a real pivotal test because you've obviously no Kohli, there's no Pant, there's no Shami, Jadeja's gone now, Cal Rahul's gone now. So that's 5 massive players out of their team. And this could be a really good time for England to... They might not have another chance like this because obviously Kohli will be back for the 3rd test. I don't know about Jadeja, but I think this is a good chance for England to really nail them down while they're under pressure.
No, I totally agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the way England playing cricket at the moment, especially in India, I think England will lose a test by a wide margin in this series. There's 5 test matches, and I think just the way they play the game, England will get beat embarrassingly in one of these four remaining tests. I don't doubt that. But I think England could easily win this second one. I think Jadeja is a huge loss for India because he balances the side in all 3 disciplines. He's their best fielder. He's experienced batter, and I thought he was very unlucky the way he bowled in Hyderabad. Should have got more wickets, a couple of drop catches. But I think you're right. I think it's almost like it's a mindset thing, isn't it? I mean, Rohit's field placings when Pope was starting to get going, he was on the defensive very, very quickly. He obviously didn't fancy Siraj at all because Siraj can go. He sprays it around a little bit, and I think he felt as though, well, I can't bring him on. So I think India will probably go with Bumrah's a class act in the seam department and even both sides. I mean, even if you're bringing in Anderson, welcome.
Oh, John's froze as well, Ian.
Few technical difficulties.
Yeah. Where were we? Well, we're talking about India, but yeah, Bumrah's a class act, Dan, isn't he? I mean, I think what John was probably going to say. I'll finish his sentence for him. He'll probably come back in, but I think they'll probably go with just Bumrah, won't they? He'll be the solitary seamer for them. I think they've got Kuldeep Yadav's in the squad. He could come in. Washington Sundar, Ian, I think's in, and he played obviously the last time we were out there.
Yeah.
Aksa Patel.
Yeah, so I think Yadav will come in for Jadeja. I think you're probably right. They'll just stick with Bumrah. He was fantastic to watch, wasn't he? Those slower balls and the way he bowled and some of his dismissals, and he's just he's high class, Bumrah. It'll be interesting, what they do. So this Sarfraz Khan, they're talking about maybe getting a go to replace.
Yeah, talking of Bumrah, I mean, the couple of overs he bowled to Ben Duckett, I mean, he set him up perfectly, didn't he? He should have had him LBW. Obviously, they didn't take the review, Ian. And then next over, I mean, it was a. If you like Test cricket, and obviously we want England to win. Are we back, John?
Yeah, sorry about that. It was cut off for some reason.
Did I steal your thunder? Were you going to say Kuldeep Yadav would be in the Indian lineup?
I think they'll either go with Kuldeep Yadav or even maybe Washington Sundar, because I think with the two youngsters coming in, say Patidar and Sarfraz come in the top six, I think they'll be worried about, because they've got a long tail India, and I think Ashwin bats a place above where he should bat, especially if Jadeja's not in the side. So I think they could go with Washington Sundar, which Washington Sundar is a little bit like Hartley. He's more of a white ball bowler, isn't he? You can't see him bowling the side out, but I suppose in these conditions where it could be an absolute raging Bunsen burner, anyone could take 7 wickets. And I think if you look at the two results at this gaff before, it's all been about first innings runs. I mean, the pitch does deteriorate, so I think first innings runs are going to be very key here.
So there's only been 2 tests before, isn't there, John, at this venue?
Yeah. And they both were pretty emphatic results.
I think we were there in 16, weren't we? And then they played South Africa. I did say last week, Ian, on here, without Kohli, I think their batting is very, very vulnerable in India. And I know what John said there. They probably should have nailed it in the first innings, 436. But if they get 550, 580, we are completely out of the game. I mean, we are completely out of the game then, Ian, probably 300 behind. But I know we can't say that we definitely would be, because with this team, you never know. But I think they are vulnerable. I think Rohit's, 37 now? He's knocking on a bit. Obviously, John was on about Shubman Gill. Shubman Gill's a fantastic player. I think he averages 30, Ian, with a bat, which is, for someone of his talent, I mean... But let's talking about talent. And I did say, when we picked last week our leading run scorers for the series, I watched that first innings and 11 balls, and I thought, Ollie Pope, I mean, I would start about his haircut as well, because it's almost as bad as Ashwin's haircut, Dan, because I don't know who's been at his hair, because that was terrible. But Ollie Pope looks like he's growing a bit of a mullet at the back there.
Oh, the ginger mullet.
Yeah, but first innings, he was all, like John said, all over the place, wasn't he? It was like a shot of ball, could have got out, like you said, John, 3 or 4 times. But second innings, I mean, they're talking, aren't they, Ian, about this could be one of the greatest innings for England overseas. Is that too much praise? Because we've had some great ones over the years, haven't we?
We have. I remember 1984. Gatting and Graham Foxy Fowler got 201, and he tells a story about that where he was at one end watching sort of Gatting sort of prod around, and he thinks he nodded off for a couple of seconds, but because of the heat and all of that kind of thing, and of course you don't have the conditioning and the nutrition that they have now. It was a remarkable innings, as you mentioned there. I've never seen 2 innings, his first innings and his second innings, as different as they were, as diametrically opposed to as they were. I mean, it was just, he looked like he'd never picked up a bat before. We watched it and it was...
He's always a little bit fidgety for me when he comes out, and the first probably 10 balls. I think if he can get... Go on, Dan.
No, I totally agree with it. But he hadn't batted for 6 months.
True.
That's the even madder thing. It's like six months, and that is, you know. So there was an element of that. But I'm sorry, back to you, Ian, because I agree. It was like chalk and cheese, wasn't it?
It was unbelievable, but it is one of the it is one of the greatest Test innings. I mean, it was just amazing the position that England were in. You know, we have, whether we like it or not, we have got a bit of a what we would consider not a weakened side, but you know, not our strongest side given certain issues. It was just remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And I've been one of his critics. I mean, I remember saying, you know, if he didn't get runs in the South Africa tests, you know, in that summer, you know, there'd be question marks over his inclusion, but you know, he's proved.
I think that was fair. I think that was fair comment because he was under pressure. I know he got the double 100, I think, against Ireland, but you've got, look, they obviously like him because they made him vice captain, didn't they? But with this innings, if you look at his stats from the last time here, I think he got 151 runs, John. I think it was, and I think he got 150, and he was all over the place. Whereas this time, and that's only one innings, you know, he might fail in these remaining 4 tests, but hopefully this will be the making of it. I just want to ask all three of you. They say it's one of England's greatest overseas innings. I remember Alex Stewart's 200s in, I think it was Barbados. It's got to be up there. I think Atherton's match-saving innings in Johannesburg, Ian's got to be up there. And I think Ben Stokes, when he got the double 100 at Cape Town, was it? With Bairstow. But Peterson, John? Peterson played a great innings, didn't he? Last time.
Yeah, don't tell him. Don't tell him. I actually think I agree with what Ian said there. I think, given the context of the game and given how he batted in the first innings, I actually think it's the greatest. And the only sort of slight sad point about it was that he got to 195 when we were 7 down. You think he was absolutely nailed on to get a double 100. And then we lost 3 quick wickets at the end, and he never got there, did he? So, I just thought, you know, it just totally. I thought he was a walking wicket that first innings. I thought, you know, he could have been out 3 or 4 times, and I think it goes back to what we said earlier, though, Rich. I think, you know, someone's obviously had a word with him, haven't they? Whether it's Skoffic or someone said to him, "Look, calm down," or you know what I mean. So I think the management. Well, the way England performed with bat and ball in both innings, the difference, I think the management's got to take a lot of. There's obviously a lot of good words being said in that dressing room, where you know we got inexperienced players playing their first Test matches, and we've got a result. I think they've got to take a lot of the credit.
What did you think to his shot, Ian, on 196?
What do you think? I think about his shot on 196.
That's
you
what
know,
I asked you.
I mean, he's got 200. He's got, you know, he's looking at 200. At least he didn't pass Fowler's 201 from 84. But you know how I feel sometimes about that. I mean, it always shows up. You know, when you do get out to that shot, it's great when you play it when it comes off, and it is how they play and they drill it. You know, and it's as standard now as a cover drive or for defence. But you've got to be. If you get yourself out to a shot like that, the bowler's not getting you out. You're giving your wicket away, and that was disappointing. But it's a fantastic innings, and he would have been tired. And yeah, I noticed he's got an Australian style sort of haircut, which.
Well, you say about him being tired, and I see it in the World Cup, Dan, when these batsmen were scoring hundreds out in India, and then they never come out and fielded, did they? No. Then Ollie Pope comes out, he's fielding at Silly Point, and he takes two great catches, doesn't he?
Yeah, incredible. Two fantastic catches off Hartley, which opened the door because, you know, what was it India needed in the end? Was it
2-3-1?
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't in the end, was it? It was 188.
Yeah, because they're 40 odd for naught.
I mean, you know, it was 188. It was a bit like the Australia chase against India. Yeah, I thought. On the Pope innings, I think John's right. There is a whole collaborative approach with the backroom staff there. People are being given voices. Coaches are getting involved. I think Hartley said he bowled slightly slower in the second innings. I think Jeetan Patel had a word with him and said, slow it down a little bit. So, you know, that picking the brains of experts. And I think kind of there was an element of, well, when Pope came to the crease, there was an element clearly of we've got nothing to lose. There is an element of that in your freedom of your mind. But he just stuck to that new identity of I'm going to sweep and I'm going to reverse sweep. And it's like, if I get out, I'm going to get out this way. It's better than me just hanging around and prodding around. And I just think it completely drove into distraction. I don't think they'd seen an overseas player come to a new and play that way. They did not know what to do. Dravid, Dravid said it afterwards, the greatest overseas innings played in India that he had seen, and that will do for me. I think it will be. I think England will play that way. I think the way India batted in that chase, they got stuck.
Yeah,
and I would not be hugely surprised if they imitated that kind of approach.
Well, they did say, I was listening today on the TalkSport pod about, I think their net session they had today, it was a bit chaotic, Dan, because they were just sweeping. Literally, that was all they were doing. Their batsmen were sweeping. So if they're doing that, we've got in here a little bit, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, it played off. And then again, those three partnerships as well. I mean, the 110 with Folkes, and I want to say about Folkes, God, it's so good to watch him on that final day behind the stumps. What I just love watching him keep wicket. But he was under the pump a little bit in a way with it. You know, the way he batted in that second innings was great, that partnership. And then Ahmed came out, and then Hartley came out, and it was again everyone fighting, everyone batting around Pope. It was really a really clever approach. Last thing I'll say on Pope is the fact that there are some dodgy haircuts going on, aren't there? Robinson, Ashwin, and you've got to have some confidence. You've got to have a lot of confidence to have a ginger mullet. Fair play to you, you know what I mean? That's probably, maybe that's a Surrey thing. But I did hear Stokes say afterwards about how he talked to Pope quite a lot in the field. He really kind of lent on him. You know, they were working as a vice captain, as a captain, and I think that would be interesting to see, because we need to think about one eye to the future, and if we can build Pope up with a bit of that as well, even better. But yeah, I think all those innings you mentioned, I think for me that was the best. It was the best innings I've ever seen.
Right, we've got about 7 minutes left, because we've got the Preston preview. Hang around if you're in the chat to watch that. So we'll have a little bit of it's always great, isn't it, when Australia lose, Ian? Now,
well, yeah.
But it was a great Sunday for Test cricket, wasn't it? You know, you got both games on. You're probably flicking. Now, we spoke about him last week, didn't we? Shamar Joseph. We spoke about him. He had a great introduction to Test cricket. So on day 3, he takes one right on the toe from Mitchell Starc, and he hobbles off the ground, and you're thinking, blimey. So didn't obviously bowl that evening. They were 60 for 2, I think, Australia, weren't they, overnight, Ian, I think.
Yeah.
And then he was in his hotel room, and they said about 11 o'clock, he wasn't even going to travel to the ground. That's right. The doctor had a word, said, look, come down to the ground, come and support your teammates. So I don't know what's happened between that conversation in his hotel room, and then he's literally got 7 for 60 odd. He's bowled West Indies to I think their first victory since '97, I think, when they won, I think, in Perth.
Yeah.
And I mean, his victory lap round the ground, unreal. Loved it.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's gone down quite well in this particular house, and Jez being out in Australia at the moment, and England winning, Australia losing. He's enjoying
on the same day. I don't think they said that had happened before.
Unbelievable. I think we speak about it in the chat, and obviously we spoke about it on the pod. I think if you were honest with yourself, I think of those 2 test matches, you'd have predicted India and Australia victories. We spoke about the Windies. They're rebuilding. They're in transition. They've got some of the best players not there. They've got a load of youngsters. They're inexperienced, not just in Test cricket, but in what we deem as first-class cricket. It's just an amazing story. He reminds me, he's got a yard, and he reminds me a little bit of Jofra Archer. In the way that he sort of zips the ball through. The wicket that got Cameron Green out. Very similar to how I think it was Flintoff got Langer in a very similar way.
Yeah, that was at Edgbaston, 05.
Edgbaston, that's right.
Yeah.
Where that, I can't remember what happened.
Off his elbow, wasn't it? Come off his elbow.
That's right. Yeah, it was
Extra
a very
bounce.
similar dismissal. Very similar dismissal. And he sort of, he's got a lovely action, repeatable action. And it's just great it's a bit of a cliche, but it's fantastic for West Indies cricket, but it's great for world cricket. And I know that's a phrase that's done to death, because we do want the West Indies to be a force again, because, Test cricket's the ultimate thing. And, the West Indies have always been part of that history. So it's fantastic.
Why no talk about Pat Cummins' declaration, John? Because Stokes got it in the air for Edgbaston, didn't he? Declaring.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. But I mean, it's an amazing spell, wasn't it? I mean, it was only 11 over spell. This kid was he 11 over 7 for her? It's amazing. I think it's what was interesting. The 2 touring sides that went to Australia this summer, you wouldn't have given them an earthly. And I think the difference between Pakistan and West Indies, that West Indies seemed to, there was no fear. Again, it goes back to what I said with England. There was no real fear there, was there? I mean, Pakistan, there was a lot of individual performances. I mean, that Jamal looks a great cricketer, doesn't he? But at the end of the day with Pakistan, you don't know what you're getting, do you? They'll win a session and they'll chuck it away. But I was very impressed with West Indies in that second Test match. I mean, everyone said that the Gabba used to be a fortress. Well, it's not anymore, is it? Because India won there, and now the West Indies have won there.
Yeah, it's interesting for the summer, Dan. You've got obviously Shamal Joseph. They've got Roach, Holder, hopefully to play. Is it Jaden Seals, Ian?
Mm-hmm.
He's another quickie. So look, it could be an interesting summer when they come over here, and obviously playing against us. Yeah, it'd be really exciting, Dan.
They got Shamal Joseph kind of headline. They got a bevy of new names. I didn't follow it that closely. Had to catch up with it on YouTube. But you got Hodge, Sinclair, McKenzie. These new lads putting in Shamal Joseph.
Who was the guy doing the somersault in?
Was that Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing celebration. I mean,
have you ever done that when you've got a wicket?
No, I was.
Did you shake hands?
I'm usually, because I'm usually carrying injuries anyway. If I did that, that would be.
I was going to say, not with your Achilles. I don't want you doing that.
Yeah, but no, it's tremendous. I mean, they all look. What was great is that they were playing with a smile on their face. They were enjoying it, a bit like what England are doing. But they all look fit. They all look athletic in the field. And I think they do rely on Brathwaite at the top of the order to get some runs. And he didn't really, come to the party. But, he's a better batsman than that. And you would think that he would need to occupy the crease when coming here in the summer.
Yeah.
Any other business, guys, before we close?
Shame that there didn't seem to be anyone in.
Well, they said, I was listening. They were saying about, because it was the 4th day. And normally, like if that was over here, Dan, 160 to win or 8 wickets. You see when Stokes took over, when we played New Zealand, it was like, what, a tenner a ticket or a fiver a ticket, or let them all free in on the 5th day? Full houses, wasn't it? Australia, no. They said full price, and I think they had about 3,000 in the ground turned up, which is sad because if you'd have had 20,000 there, look, it was great anyway, but it always looks a bit strange to me, the Gabba, Dan, with all them coloured seats. Do they dress up as fans? Is that what they're dressed up as fans? To make it look as though there's people there?
It was done for TV, wasn't it?
Yeah, strange. Don't like it.
Yeah. No, it's a little bit of a shame. It was interesting to see Smith do that root-esque paddle sweep for 6 in the run chase, which was a bit of Bazball coming in there, and to be but it's a shame. All I'd say is a shame to see. Well, not a shame. I mean, Australia gave England a big humping today in the Under-19 World Cup. And they look.
It's interesting. It's interesting what you say there, because I mean, with Smith, Australia got beat up by 8 runs, didn't they? Say they'd have won that match and Smith would have batted through. Everyone was saying, "No, Smith can't open the batting in Test cricket," and he would probably play one of the best innings of all time, batting right the way through, carrying his bat and winning by 1 wicket. So it's interesting, isn't it?
He's averaging 60 now as an opener, John, as well. I see he'd said that there. Anyway, we've got to go because we've got Talking Towns Match Day preview show. So stick around for that if you're in the chat. Thanks to John. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to Ian. Cheers to everyone who's tuned in. We will be back at some point next week to hopefully review, well, possibly another England win. Who knows? Anyway, we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.